I said a long time ago, I said a woman can't raise a man, she can raise her man. And everybody paused like, what do you mean? I said, hold on.
Oh my gosh.
A lot of women who are single moms, unfortunately, most of the men / males were totally ignorant, stupid, demeaning, you name it. They were every negative term you can think of. So a lot of single mothers are scarred because of what the male did. It had nothing to do with her. It had to do with what he did. Some women, now I'm not going to talk about today's women because I'll get into them later. That's a whole nother ballgame. But a while ago, when women were, it's tough to even explain today's women versus yesteryear's women. But yesteryear's women, when they were raising a male into a man, what they did was they imputed into him what they feel a man should be. Their man. What a husband should be. You know, you should be this way. You should be that way. So whatever their mindset of what a good man should be, that's how they raise their son. That's why I said a woman can only raise her man. She can't raise a man. She can raise her man. So whatever her thoughts and ideas and views of what a man should be, that's how she's going to raise her son. A lot of times, when he's around his peers, he realizes, this is totally different. They're totally different from what my mama raised me. And it causes a whole lot of different issues. That's all across the board.
Right.
But it goes to show again, a woman innately knows what a man should be because she knows how to raise her man. I just hate it when they say, I can raise a man. No. You can raise your man. Unfortunately, when he gets older, he tries to find out and become his own man. And it clashes with the man that you raised him to be. You have raised a respectful gentleman. He should be this way, he should be this way, he should be that way. But in today's society, unfortunately, with all the nonsense and mess that's going around, he's like, whoa, I'm being punked out, I'm being this, I'm being yelled at, I'm being punched and slapped and kicked and all of this. But my mama told me that I shouldn't do this. My mom said I shouldn't do this and I shouldn't act this way and I shouldn't do this. But I keep realizing if I do act this way, it's the only way to attract a girl my age or here. There's a whole huge conflict. That's why I've always said that. You know, again, that's why I said I wanted to explain why I said what I said. I'm still a firm believer in that because I watch it today. I see a lot of young moms today. They have so much anger and resentment. Some of it is they don't want to be accountable and responsible for what they did to mess up their own relationship. Everything is blamed on the male. A lot of times, 8 times out of 10, that male was an idiot. But you chose him. And now you have a son. And now you calling him stupid like his dad. He looked like his daddy. You're going to be nothing like your daddy. You're going to be this like your daddy. Now you have totally ruined this kid because of how you felt towards his daddy. Now you're putting it and projecting it out on him. There's always two sides of a coin. I always say the Lord always shows me a quarter. You could be the head and you could be the tail. And there is a thin line in between which one of those that you're going to be. In raising a child, you have to say, what am I saying and what example am I setting? A lot of women today, unfortunately, who think strength is ignorance. You fussing and yelling at your husband in front of your kids, especially if you have a daughter. What are you teaching them? It's not godly. It's not right. I'm teaching you to stand up for yourself. Again, it's not godly and it's not right. So when you turn around and tell that same child, I'm a woman of God, everything you did was against God. How can you claim to be something that you're not? Same thing for a man. If I'm teaching my sons and I'm beating on my woman all the time, my wife all the time, and I say I'm a man of God. Well, God doesn't say that you're supposed to be beating on your woman. How can I dare? Hold on. No. How can I dare? how can I dare? You know, it's like, how can I dare say that? If this is what I'm showing, then how can I say this is who and what I am? Because apparently there's miscommunication somewhere. Everybody loves lip service because lip service sounds good. But most people don't want to look in the mirror and say, okay, my intention for saying this or my intention for this is that, think about it. If you're in a boyfriend-girlfriend situation or a husband and wife situation and you're arguing and you say something against the person, let's say, housewife stupidity, I'll take that. I'm not even going to say their names because they don't deserve that. But she arguing with her husband. And I mean just, blah, 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 blah. And I'm a man. I'm more of a man than you are. Okay, what was her reason for saying it? Was it positive? Was it baby I love you? Was it godly? Was it right? Was it justified? Was it spiritual? Everything about it is wrong. I don't care what she said. Everything is wrong. but we'll turn around and make an excuse. Well, she's fed up, so she's tired, so she does everything, so. But it's wrong, period. Instead of looking in the mirror and say, you know what, I'm wrong. I shouldn't have did it, shouldn't have said it, I don't care how I felt, I don't care what I went through, I don't care if the sky fell, I don't care if frogs dropped, the plagues was everywhere. It shouldn't have came out of, no, she shouldn't. She should say what the Lord said. That's what I'm getting back to. You got to go back to and say, what did God say? That's why I'm very, very careful when I do talk. You notice how I say, God says this. God didn't ask how you felt. God didn't ask what you thought. This is what God said. Because when you go back to the psychological issues of what man has done by saying this, I mean, we can go back to the 60s. When they went to a certain community, when they were doing women's lib, and they said, in order to have welfare in this, you have to kick your man out of the house. They did it then again. It's funny how we have sipped the Kool-Aid and thinking that it's okay. And now you hear, I don't need a man. So now you have all these men knowing that, feeling they don't want to be needed, and now they're feminine. Now they're women. It's interesting how you go back to Willie Lynch. You go back to what he said, psychologically where it started. He said this will last minimum 400 years. But if done right, it will last 1,000 years. He said it will be greater than anything Rome has ever done in the times of Jesus Christ. He knew what he was doing. And we have accepted and sipped the Kool-Aid. And look at where we are now. I keep saying, no matter what we think, no matter what we feel, look at the evidence that's around us. The evidence point to the fact of what he said. So when the man is being belittled, when the man has been belittled, when the man has been removed, and now we're in a society to where not women think it, but when they say it, I'm the head, I'm more of a man than you, you're this. Look at how the whole spiritual nature of how we've been created by our Father has totally changed. If any time, as a spiritual being, I can come and tell you, I'm over you, I'm your head, you're not this, and you're not that, but in the same breath, I say God knows my heart. In the same breath, I say God has my back. In the same breath, I say it's because of you. The mirror says, no, it's because of you. We have to be careful in how we say things. I'm very, very careful with that. What you watch is who you are. For me, there's certain things I don't want to watch. I am not a romantic dude. Used to be when I was young. I don't want to watch old Winterville, old Romeo. No, I can't stand that mess. Keep it away from me. That's me. I'm quote unquote man enough to admit that. That is not me. There's things that I like. I like video games. I like violence. I like this. I like that's me. I love that. That's me all day long. Me man. That's me.
But sometimes you gotta bend.
Oh no, I agree. No, don't get me wrong. Now I will. I love my comedy. I love my this. I will watch some mushy stuff. There are things that I will break down and watch. I will break down and watch some mushy stuff. That's on my level of mushydom, which isn't even a word. But what I've learned is for myself is one thing when God talks about all of these orifices, all these are spiritual things. Whatever you watch, it's because that's what you like in your heart. Whatever you listen to, that's because that's what you like in your heart. And you can make a compromise. You're doing something for somebody else. You can say that. But what your normal intake is who you are. So I always sit back and I ask people when we have conversations, like for me, if I sit back and I want to play Call of Duty all the time, and I want to do this all the time, which I did all the time, and I want to do this all the time. You know why? Because that's in my heart. There's an aspect about that I find intriguing, I find challenging, and I love it. If I'm, be it now, especially even men, or be it women, if I'm watching hip-hop or stupidity or housewives or stupidity, why am I watching it? Because that's who I am. I like that. I like the chaos. I like the ignorance. I like the stupidity. I like this. And 9 times out of 10, and this is how God had to show Marcus. I grew up with NWA. Loved NWA. Now, was I a gangster? I say no, but there was a whole lot of things. Everything they said, well, I wound up doing a lot of stuff, but at the time, everything they said, that was not Marcus. But one thing the Lord had to tell me was, he said, you know why you like that so much? It's because that's who you were at the time. You were NWA. You may not have did anything that they said do, but that's who you were. And it really caught me like, oh my God, you're right. I had a bad, horrible attitude. I was this guy. I wound up selling drugs. I wound up carrying guns. I wound up doing all these different things I did. So something that I thought was so innocent, something I thought was just entertainment, just entertaining, was actually entertaining my spirit. It was sowing seeds, causing me to be this way. As Tupac said, the demons planted seeds at a young age in my head. Now it's such a dirty game because now they've hatched. I don't know how to handle them any longer. That was a cry for help. That's a true statement. So when you sit back and say, why do I like this kind of music? Because that's who I am. I don't want to admit it because of what I'm listening to. Oh, I was too live crew, don't stop, get it all day long. But I could admit to that part, but I couldn't admit to being the NWA. See, we split hairs with what we want to admit to and what we don't want to admit to. Because now we get to see the true reflection of who we are. It's the same thing. It's the same thing with relationships. If I'm with this person and it goes bad, and I'm with the next person and the next person, now I'm down to 20, and all I ever say is, all men are the same, all women are the same. They were all different. The only person that was the same was me. I'm the common denominator. I'm the one that made all of these choices. I must be the one with all these issues because I keep choosing the same people. Though again, we don't ever want to look in the mirror and say, it's me. Ever. We want to look in the mirror and turn and say, it's you, it's you, it's you. No, what about you take accountability and responsibility for yourself? Yes.
I know you think I gotta come back to that, but I don't. What I was going to say is make a suggestion. Why is it that we just can't have one night a week where we sit down with the babies instead of Sundays?
Yeah, but that's what this...
I mean, I see what you're doing today, but...
Yeah, that's what this Sunday is about.
That should be a weeknight thing where it's a debate or whatever and everybody get to air their views because it just seems like a...
But it's just different. It's just different doing something on a Sunday morning. I mean, no, he's not going to use all this. You can just use, Oh, everybody get to see what they sound like.
You're going to hear.
Yeah. It's one of those things because there's things that are necessary, and there are always things that need to be said in order to grow. One thing that everyone knows that growing is painful. My son's going through that now. There's space here, you're growing, it hurts. But in order to build something, first you got to tear something down. And most people don't want to tear anything down. Most people don't want to tear down what they believed in. I believed in this and I've stood on Plymouth Rock all these years. How dare Malcolm X come and say I've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and led astray? I didn't land on Plymouth Rock. It actually landed on top of me. I don't feel the pressure. I don't feel the weight. Because you know why? Because you sipped the Kool-Aid. But until you go back and say, well, if I'm a spiritual being and I believe in God, because of course I don't believe in relationship, that is, no. Excuse me, I don't believe in religion. I believe in relationship. I'm sorry for that. But when you go back and say, if I'm a spiritual being, then in whatever I'm doing, am I justified and am I right in doing it? Because, as Tupac always said, only God can judge me. Well, if God is judging everything I say and everything I do and what I think, am I right? That should always be the end result of what you say and what you do. Am I right? Is God aligning with what I'm saying? Is God aligning with what I'm doing? Yeah, this may be my circumstance now, but man, God is setting me up for this. This may be where I'm at now, but God is setting me up for that. I think some of the hardest things when we deal with relationships is this. You have two people. Most people, unfortunately, when they come together, neither one of them has gotten rid of their old baggage. They come with their baggage packed, ready to unload it on somebody else. I've been hurt. I've been through this. I've been through this. You didn't get set free, healed, nor delivered. Because you're still holding on to that and you're waiting for that person to do whatever it is that the other person did, and you're going to pounce on it. Well, all your old baggage, you're just going to let it all go. And the other person is doing the same thing. Or, I'm coming in with how I've been raised. And then you come in with how you've been raised. And it's total polar opposites. Instead of saying, well, what does God say? We don't say that. We say how I feel. Well, I feel we should do this. Well, God didn't say what you felt. I feel God, we should do this. God didn't say that either. If you say that we believe in God, notice I said we, not I, because the two people are supposed to become one. So I'm saying I just. But if you say we believe in God, Whenever I listen to people say that, then I always say, well, why don't you follow what God says? It's an easy thing. It's simple. If that's what you believe in. Most people who say, oh, I'm a Christian, you are a Christian. Christians have done most of the evil on the planet. Unfortunately, there's a difference in being a Christian and being a believer. Being saved. Christian is just a name. Jesus wasn't a Christian. He was called a Nazarene. So if anything, I'm a Nazareneite. I'm not a Christian. That's not me. I stand bold all the time and tell everybody, no, I'm not a Christian. No. Because Jesus wasn't. So if I'm going to be Christ-like, then I need to be what Christ was, and Christians only in the Bible 2 times, and we're not going to go into all of that. But I'm just not a Christian. I'm a believer in God. But it comes back down to, again, relationship. Yes, ma'am.
I don't know, so I'm going to ask. Does it say in the Bible that when a man marries a woman, he owns her?
He owns her?
Yes.
No. No. I mean, this.
I didn't think so.
I think the difference is people say women were treated like property. But the difference is when you look at what the Bible says, when you come into covenant, when you come into a marriage is a contract. So contractually, both parties, contractually by God, have certain things that they're supposed to do. The problem that we have in most marriages is one person is not fulfilling their part of the contract, but they're expecting the other person to fulfill theirs. How can you break the contract and have the audacity to think that somebody else should do what they're supposed to be doing? That's where issues come in at. And you sit back and say, well, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. But I'm going to tell you what you're not doing. No, start with you first. It's one thing that God says that most people don't want to do. God says when you recognize the issue with somebody else, start with your issue first. Don't even go tell them what their issue is. Get your issue together. If you get your issue together, God will honor you when you go talk to them. And unfortunately, / fortunately, depending on what side you stand on, when we talk about women, because we've been talking about it a lot, we talk about wives, being a helpmeet. I always say if I was a woman reading the Bible, a lot of times I used to say in the natural, I would always be upset. Always. That's in the natural. In the spiritual, it's something different. When we talk about women maturing more than men, when we talk about women being more conniving more than men, yeah, I said it. Women being smarter than men, all those different things, yeah. To a lot of degree, that's true. And you look at the accountability and responsibility on a woman versus a man is night and day. So a woman is accountable for a lot. A woman is responsible for a lot because a woman is accountable and responsible for lives. A woman has a symbiotic being inside of them that they bring forth. A man knows nothing about that. So there's a connection here that a man would never have that a woman has with her child. It just doesn't work that way. But relationship-wise, part of the issue is this. As a woman, you see that your man is wrong. You see that he's going through all of this. God didn't say for you to go check it. What you're supposed to do is pray for him. And whatever that you've done, or whatever you see yourself lacking or slacking, get that right, then go talk to him. It's funny how we talk about when it says that when a woman speaks, it's supposed to be honey to the ears and the palate of a man. When she speaks, it's supposed to be that. But when you speak and it's not that, it ain't his fault, it's your fault. Well, you think I'm coming at you. No, that's what you just did. You just came at me. Nothing you just said was honey. Nothing you just said was this. You're out of order. Stop telling me about this. It's one of those things where you have to look at, God deals with me with this. God always says, I said something to my wife one day, and God checked me immediately, and that was like a sucker punch. He said, I said something to her, she said something back, and then I used the word against her. Now, my whole intention was wrong. The word I used was right, but my intention was wrong. And God said to me, he said, son, my word should convict, not restrict. Mirror in my face, and it caught me real fast. He's like, don't you ever use my word like that again. When you use my word, make sure you use it in the right way, in the right fashion, for the right reason. Not for your own selfish desires. Don't ever do that again. And it caught me because here I am with God, like, but I said what you said, and I said this. He said, yeah, you said, but the spirit in which you said it was wrong. Stop it. That's why I say I'm careful. I listen to people. Sometimes people say the right thing, but they do the exact opposite. God says you're going to be judged by your actions. Only a fool looks at the outward appearance. God looks and judges the heart. And a man will be judged by his actions, not by just what you say. So I'm very cautious. So I always say when it comes down to relationships, when you do talk, when you do approach, it's hard because For a woman to have to be a helpmeet for a man means that in the spirit, not in the natural, because we get this flip-flopped. You're supposed to be 2 steps ahead of your man, spiritually. But we try to do it naturally. It doesn't work that way. Spiritually, meaning you're supposed to already be praying for what he's about to go through, because you should be so in keen with God and with your man, you should know what he's about to go through. You should know the heavy load or burden, whatever it may be that's on him. Being 2 steps ahead, then you should know how to come back and to approach him. But when the reception is wrong, you have to look at the seed that you planted. Well, what did I say? How did I say it? When did I say it? Where did I say it? And when you start to look at those things, then you'll be able to see, oh, this is why this went wrong. This is why that went wrong. Same thing for a man. When you're praying and you say, I need help and I need strength, one thing that I've been finding out more and more lately, when you're married as a man, when you say, I need help, that means something is lacking in your relationship. Because your help is supposed to be on your right side. Your wife is supposed to be your help. She's your helpmeet. I always go with what the word says. A woman by herself can be a great woman. A man by himself can be a great man, but he'll always be incomplete. And what I mean by that is a woman came from the rib of a man. God removed the rib from Adam and made Eve. That means a man is always missing his rib until he finds his wife. He's always incomplete until she's there. But when the rib is there, a rib is supposed to protect the vital organ. It's not supposed to be sharp and cut up the vital organs. It's not supposed to be sharp tongue and do this and cause more damage. The rib is supposed to be there to protect, to heal, to help. That's what the rib is there for. So a man is just a man. Excuse me for saying it, I'm a man. I trust me, I know. A man is always incomplete until he finds his rib. When a man knows that he has his rib that will protect him, he will do everything to make sure that the rib remains healthy. That's how most people who have a healthy body, that's just how we are. That's how we've been constructed. But as men, whenever we see that there's turbulence, whenever we see that there's friction in this, a man will pull back in a heartbeat. Either he'll press forward, unfortunately, or he'll pull back, unfortunately. You have to know, whenever you've been put in a position to help somebody else, you almost have to know more than what they know. You have to know more about them than they know about themselves. But you can't use it against them. You have to use it to help them. I always say being a woman, being a godly woman is hard. It's probably the hardest thing on the planet to be a godly woman. But the other thing that's hard to do, the hardest thing to do is to be a godly man. So there's, again, the difference is that when you look at the roles that a man has and you look at the roles that a woman has, you look at what God said, not what we think, not what we feel, just the roles that he particularly said himself. When you look at who was made for who, it changes perception. It changes the perception of what society has put. Because according to society, it is the exact opposite. It is the man was made for her. The man is made to do this for the wife. The man is made to help the wife do this. The man is made to help the wife do that. But that's not what God said. Now there's things that you're supposed to do. There's a difference. This is what I'm going back to. It's still missing the words. It is who was made for what. Now you can say what everybody does and how everyone helps, because everybody's supposed to help everybody. Each one's supposed to help the other. But when you talk about what was God's design and what was made for what, that's what we're supposed to stick with.
So God said that the man is the protector. So therefore, he's supposed to protect his rib. He's supposed to protect his wife and his family. Now that's God. That's what God said, that you are the protector. So no matter who made for what, God said you're the protector.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you tell us one day that in the Bible it says that man's supposed to treat his wife like
Man's supposed to treat his wife like Christ loved his wife, like Christ loved the church. And the problem is what the Bible says love is. I'm not going to get into it, but what the Bible says love is. And everyone has it's interesting. Everything about the Bible is about love. The problem is when you see what love totally entails, most people don't want to accept half of love. They only want to accept some of love. We don't want the other part of love. We only want this part of love. It's like, it's like most things in life. Like, you know, we want to be able to eat all the cookies, the sweets, and soda and everything else, but we don't want to accept the damage that it'll do to us. We want the good stuff, but we don't want the bad stuff. Same thing with love. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. Yes, great. But for God so loved the world that he destroyed the entire planet with a flood. But we don't want to talk about that part because that's love also. Again, Christ loved the church. Christ loved the church so much that he got mad, he turned the tables over. We know that story because we hear it all the time. But Christ also loved the church so much that he went in there and he made a court. He beat everybody that was in the church. We don't want to talk about that. Again, there's different things, and that's why I say everyone's perception. What I've grown to learn for myself. The Bible says do not add to and don't take away. That no one should have their own private interpretation. That's what the word says. But what I've realized is most people will go into the Bible and try to find something that fits and suits what they personally believe and stand on it. Instead of saying, well, simply, what did God say? And leave it at that. We can't do that. We have to find what fits us. Well, let me find this one part right here, because this one part fits me. Well, what about the whole entirety of what was just said? What about everything else that was said to that? So you'll find one thing and stick with the one thing, but you'll omit the 50 things that are there as well. And these are part of the issues that we have in church. Part of the issues why we keep hearing there's so many contradictions in the Bible, why the Bible says one thing on this part, says another thing on this part. And it didn't start with the world, but it started in church. If I tell you the Bible says this, you'll go search and try to find the Bible where it says that. But the Lord always tells me, what is your heart and what is your reasoning for searching for it? Because if it's in the Bible, you're supposed to accept it. That's what we've been taught, right? So why if somebody tells you that something is in the Bible and shows it to you, what makes you go search for something different? Those are personal things that you have to ask yourself why we do that.